Welcome back to the show. A very, very good morning to you. Like I said, it is the 1st of July, and I am super, super excited to be here because we do, in fact, have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Now, earlier we were in a conversation with Tabitha about everything related to sustainability, sustainable eating, and sustainable food because, like I said, that is a very important conversation that needs to be had, right? That is a very important conversation that we need to focus on. We need to make sure we're doing something about because we are in the middle of a pandemic. We are in the middle of this situation where we actually have to make certain changes because our planet is going through a crisis. We ourselves are, having our own personal crisis because of, the pandemic and having to deal with all of that, right? So that is why I am actually here because we're going to have this very interesting, very important conversation too, if I might add, about finding your purpose in life. Now, let's actually talk about why we need to find our purpose in life, why it's important that we find our purpose in life as well because like I said, a lot of us have been lost. We've had to go through a lot of negative feelings. We've been through a lot of anxiety. We've had a lot of worries, and we've been stressed out as well in the middle of a pandemic, right? So obviously that means we have a lot of things to talk about. We have a lot of things to make sure we talk about as well because this past a year and a half has truly been a very trying year. We've had to deal with different things, and that's why I'm going to talk to you about finding your purpose in life. But before I actually get into that conversation, I want to quickly remind you that um, you can go follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And that way you can be a part of the show because, you can always be updated about everything we're talking about, updated about everything, and also informed about what we're talking about as well, which is very, very important in this day and age because we need to make sure we're all informed and updated about everything that is going on. Now, also while you're at it, make sure you text me on 078 because I would absolutely love to, get to know your thoughts, your opinions on what I'm talking about as well. And make sure you go download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store as well. And that way you can join into this conversation anytime you want because Relax Radio is 24/7, okay? So make sure you do that. But right now, let's actually get into this conversation. Now, how do we find our purpose in life? Like I said, the pandemic has actually made everyone think about what really matters, and it definitely isn't hustle culture. And if you remember, we had this conversation about hustle culture. We spoke about why hustle culture is in fact very detrimental and it hasn't really helped anyone at all, right? So we spoke about all of these things, and that's why we're actually going to talk about why we need to find our life's purpose. Now, like I said, we definitely figured out that hustle culture isn't what's important in the middle of a pandemic, and working around the clock of or pledging yourself to your employer like a serf either isn't really helping you as well. So we all know that everyone is fixated on offices. We have all these different questions. Will we ever, return to our offices? Will the extroverts zoom, or rather, will the extroverts return and the introverts stay at home? Will the high performers go back and coasters actually stick to Zoom, or will it be the other way around? So, like I said, so many questions. And they're unanswered as well, and I think the reason we can't answer these questions, the reason we can't actually come up with answers for all these 101 questions that we have is simply because of the fact that we're still in this pandemic, right? We still don't know what is going to happen for sure. We don't know how things could change. So obviously we do have a lot of we do have a lot of doubts, we do have a lot of uncertainties that we need to think about. So obviously one of those questions, and the fact of the matter is, in the middle of the pandemic, we've all had these instances where we've thought, what's the point of life? What is the purpose of my life? And that's very normal because I assure you, you're not the only one who felt that way. I felt that way as well. you know I definitely had so many moments where I sat and thought to myself, what's the point of my life? Why am I on this earth? Like, why am I on this planet? What is my purpose? What do I do with my life? And that's why it's very, very important to find your purpose in life, because you sort of lose the sense of meaning, lose your sense of place in your life if you don't know what you want to do with your life. Now we'll be getting back to, we'll be talking about all of that in a few minutes, but I want to quickly, talk about the pandemic and talk about everything else we've been feeling as well, right? Now, you know how I said we have all these 101 questions about how things are going to be, how lives are going to change, and whatnot. But we also have this question, not really a question, but maybe a thought that maybe anyone with a sense of purpose and direction can work from their bedroom. It doesn't matter if it's a bed or whether they're perched on an ironing board, or they are sitting out in the balcony. It doesn't matter, because some people are just so motivated that they can do any type of work anywhere. It just really doesn't matter where they are, because they have this sense of purpose, they have this sense of direction, right? And also something else is, it sometimes it feels like you just need colleagues in real life if you're aimless and chaotic, because you feel like that's the only way you'll be in check. You feel like that's the only way you'll realize that you have work to do, if you have colleagues around you who are doing work as well. And that's the only way your chaotic life will actually be less chaotic. We've all had that, we've all been there as well. Now, what's important or rather a more profound conversation about work itself. Now, hustle culture is something that we spoke about some time back, but when it comes to hustle culture, when it comes to working all the time, finding your fulfillment and identity there, and even pledging yourself to your employer like a serf, and having this side hustle to plug any gaps, and configuring yourself to as an instrument of productivity, has obviously taken a hit over the past 18 months. And it's not surprising. You're ultimately, at the end of the day, you're not some robot, right? You can't be focused, you can't always be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because that does not make any sense at all. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're human, we need rest, and hustle culture is all but rest. It's all about waking up early, doing your job, staying late at your office, then having like side hustles when you're free. So in reality, when it comes to hustle culture, you actually don't have any other free time to build those relationships, build spend time with the people you love and care about. And what is the point of life if you can't spend time with the people you love and care about? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you have if you're all alone, right? Money is important, but so is love. You can't you can't exist without one. It's just, you need money, but you need love as well, right? So obviously, when it comes to money, when it comes to love, when it comes to hustling as well, what's the point of your life if you don't actually have any friends, any family members to share to share your achievements and your accomplishments with? Because what are you going to then go home and talk to your wall and tell your wall you achieved this and that? Because that's not going to help. As human beings, as social beings, we want love, we want attention, we want appreciation, right? I mean, look, children want it, so it's very normal. Adults want it, teenagers want it as well. It doesn't matter what age you are. At the end of the day, we're all human, we all want love, we all want attention. And that's why it's very, very important for us to talk about hustle culture as well. Now, like I said, hustle culture has actually taken a hit over the past 18 months, because no one cares about hustling anymore. It's as simple as that. No one no one cares about their side hustle, or all these long hours at their workplace, because right now the first thing, the priority on people's minds, are actually getting out of this pandemic. And I understand why that is. It's very relatable. Obviously, I'm not one of these people from the hustle culture. I'm not a workaholic, but the thing is, it doesn't matter if you're a workaholic or not. Our main concern, our main issue has actually been, how do I get out of this pandemic in a single piece? How do I find my sense of purpose after this pandemic? Especially because this pandemic has actually made us lose a sense of purpose. It has made us feel like we aren't worth anything, you know So that is something that we're going to be talking about as well. Now let's talk about how some of us have been actually forced by this catastrophe to think about what really matters. Now some have realized that for all that we loved our jobs didn't actually love us back, because sometimes it didn't matter if you were having a burnout because of the pandemic. It didn't matter if you were having a lot of stress and anxiety because of the pandemic. Your job or your boss was literally like, I don't think so. It doesn't matter if you're going through 101 problems, you still need to contribute the same way you did to your workplace. And secondly, a lot of us lost our jobs. A lot of us out there lost our jobs we don't, we're barely surviving, especially people from low income households lost their jobs a lot, and they were finding it very hard to survive. So then it has actually made a lot of us question, you know what is the point of all of this? We emptied our tank of drive and ambition and a sense of purpose and meaning to our job, but now our job doesn't even love us back. Our job is not even helping us with the problems that we're currently facing. So what exactly is the point of, what is the point of this job? Why am I why am I putting in so much of effort? Why am I putting in so much of time but not really getting anything out of it? Now also, for some others of us, we've had this prolonged period of inactivity that our muscles of activity, for activity's sake, has actually simply vanished. It just doesn't exist anymore. Not that it doesn't exist, but sometimes when you're trying to be active, sometimes when you're trying to get off the bed and make the change, it's just you can't do it because you're not used to it. You're so used to this sense of your life being so abnormal from what it used to be. We're all stuck at home. We have to spend so much more time with our families. We're isolated. We don't meet our friends, and because of that, obviously, we've all had to make these changes. And for a lot of us who've stayed at home, especially if you're studying and you're not doing a job and you're just with your friends, your parents, then the thing is, the fact of the matter is, you've just been stuck at home. You've just been very lazy, to put it that way, right? Because our parents would be working, our siblings would be studying, and if you're just somewhere in the middle of, like, you're done with your A levels but you're going to apply to university, but university submissions and everything are getting late because of the pandemic, then chances are you've probably felt very, very bored as well. So like I said, a lot of us have been feeling very inactive as well. Now it's quite crazy, because when you think about it, all of these things have aligned all at once for this once in a generation event, which is basically the pandemic. And that has actually made us question what our purpose in life is. So make sure you stay tuned, because I'll be back in a few more minutes after this small break to talk to you about our purpose in life and why it's important that we actually find this purpose in life. Okay, but until then, make sure you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is, we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account And then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country, to be fair. Different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, has how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset. And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, he'd say to me, you had one to forget. That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much. A lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise. Now I'm very, very excited to be here because we're talking about finding our purpose in life. And like I said, it's very, very important for us to find our purpose of life or our purpose in life, because that is how we find our sense of fulfillment. That is how we find ourselves self of find purpose of self achievement as well. And those things are very very important because as a person you can't actually function if you don't know what you're doing with your life. And I can actually relate to this a lot because sometime back I was going through, this bout of depression, and things were very bad for me, right? And I was just trying to figure out my purpose in life because I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life either. So it was just this situation where I was so confused, I was lost, and I didn't know what to do with my life. And it was very very hard because every day you wake up and you feel like your life is pointless. You wake up and you feel like you haven't done enough for this world, or that what you do will never be enough because you feel like, in this whole ocean of people, you're just a drop of water. That's what you feel like when you don't know your purpose in life, when you can't find your purpose in life. That is what you feel like. And honestly, it's definitely not the best feeling ever, which is why I'm having this conversation with you, which is why I'm trying to talk to you about finding your sense of achievement, of finding your sense of purpose, because that way we can actually make sure that we're going to be so much better. We're going to be so much better, and we're going to feel so much better about the fact that we have some sort of purpose in our life, right? So obviously that is what we're talking about. But before we get into that conversation, I actually want to quickly, very quickly, remind you that you can be a part of this conversation by just texting me on 078 52473473. And I would absolutely love to hear from you because that's what we do here at Relax Radio. It's all about you. It's about your opinion, it's about your thoughts and your perception. So make sure you text me on the number because I would absolutely love to hear from you as well. Okay, so make sure you do that. But also, before I quickly get into this topic, I want to remind you that you can follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And that way, you can always stay updated on everything we're talking about. You can also follow some of the most amazing content that we have there. So make sure you do that. But let's actually get into this conversation right now. Earlier we were talking about the pandemic. We were talking about why it's very important for us to actually make sure we find our purpose in life. And we were talking about how a lot of us came to a lot of different realizations during the pandemic. And one of the biggest realizations of the pandemic was the fact that hustle culture isn't an amazing thing. It's not something to be proud of. And secondly was the fact that even though we love our jobs, our jobs don't really love us back. So those were one of, or rather two of the biggest realizations that we came across, right? But getting back to this conversation, at the height of the pandemic, now 63% of people actually supported a 4-day week, and only 12% were against it, which means that people supported a 4-day work week, right? They just wanted to go to work for 4 days a week, right? And the thing is, it sounds like a much bigger shift when you call it a 3-day weekend, but either way, it's as far away from hustle culture as you can imagine, right? Obviously, no one wants to be a part of that toxic workaholic culture anymore. But the thing is now, then it brings us to this question of, are we actually ready for the second part of this conversation, where if you don't find your sense of purpose from work, then where exactly are you going to find it from? And that is a very, I have to say, that is in fact a very philosophical question, because where do you find your sense of purpose from? How do you find your sense of purpose, right? Now those are obviously huge questions that we've all had, and believe me, we aren't the only people who've had those questions. There's a lot of philosophers out there, a lot of other esteemed thinkers, renowned thinkers as well, who had that question: where do you find your sense of purpose in life? Now that's something I would like to hear from you as well. So you know if you want to know, if you want to find out your sense of purpose in life, well, then make sure you text me on 078 52473473, because I would absolutely love to hear about you. I would love to know, if you couldn't find your sense of purpose in life, if you're struggling to find your sense of purpose in life. Also, if you already found what you're supposed to do with your life, well, make sure you text me, because I would absolutely love to share your stories with everyone who is listening in. I would love to tell everyone about your stories as well, because obviously that is something that I know that's what we do here at Relax Radio. So make sure you share your story, rather, because we can, we can have a really great conversation. We can make sure that everyone knows that this problem, it's normal. Everyone has this situation where they're trying to find their purpose in life, where they're trying to, make things a bit more clearer for them, and that's normal. So, if you want to share some of your stories, make sure you do that. But getting back into this conversation now, when it comes to finding our sense of purpose, if we can't find it from work, and where else can we find it from? We can say, okay, what about the relationships we have? Now, intimate relationships actually count for a lot, but you don't really wake up every day, or wake up every morning with a drive to do them better, right? Because that's not how relationships work. It's very different. I mean, there aren't like starkingly different, huge differences, but the thing is that it still works in a different way, right? But the thing is, you don't really wake up every morning and decide, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this so much better. Because when it comes to relationships, it's a process. You have to understand your partner, you have to understand your friends, your family, whatever it is, you have to understand them, you have to work towards, making yourself more likable and whatnot. And that doesn't necessarily count as a sense of purpose. That just counts as self-development, personal development, and that is what that is. So, then we have all these questions of where do you direct your competitiveness, and how do you, how to which direct, where do you direct your urge to, not just to improve but to measure your improvement? Because it's definitely not just triathlons or marathons, right? Obviously it's not some sport activity or your favorite sport to play, because that's definitely not how you want to find your purpose in life. Now, for decades, actually, psychologists have studied how long-term meaningful goals actually develop over the span of our lives. Right now, sometimes you can start with wanting to be a doctor. Like, for example, for as long as I can remember, my sister has always wanted to be a doctor, and you know what? She's still 16, right? But the thing is, when it comes to doing when it comes to finding your purpose in life, it's just something that grows over time. Right now, when I was growing up, I wanted to do I wanted to do many things. I wanted to do so many different things. But obviously, at a certain age, at a certain point in your life, you begin to realize that it doesn't matter if I want to do all of these things in life. It doesn't matter how many charities I want to donate to, how many people I'm going to help, if I don't find my purpose in life, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, ultimately, the fact that you donate to charities, it's to make you feel like you're doing something for this world, right? And I'm not wrong, because look, that is the exact same reason I also donate to charities and whatnot. That's why I try to help people as much as I can, because I feel like I'm doing something for this world. I feel like I'm trying to change it. It doesn't matter how little that change is, at least I'm trying to do something, right? So obviously, like I said, psychologists as well have found out that these goals that you develop can, or these goals that you want to achieve can actually develop over the span of our lives. Now, the goals that foster a sense of purpose are actually ones that can potentially change the lives of other people. Like I said, like launching an organization, researching a disease, or teaching kids to read. Yeah, because the thing is, you can actually only find your sense of purpose, you can only find your sense of fulfillment when you feel like you're helping someone, right? Because it's just how it's I think it's just how we're wired. you know the only way we can be happy, or the only way we feel better about ourselves, is when we help someone else, someone who's less fortunate than us. And I know I'm not wrong when I say that, because how many of us feel so much better when we donate at least some amount of money, no matter regardless of whether it's Christmas or Easter, whatever festival it is, whatever it is, it still makes you feel very, very good when you donate to someone, when you give someone some money, because you know that somehow or the other you're actually helping them make their lives better. And when it comes to finding your purpose as well, ultimately you want to find your purpose in a way which it helps other people as well, right? It has to be fulfilling to you, but it also has to make sure that whatever your purpose in life is, that whatever you do, it actually helps all of these other people as well, right? And that's why there are so many, charity organizations. That's why there's so many other organizations that help and look into, or rather research about all the different types of social issues, issues related to socioeconomic issues, social cultural issues that people face. And at the end of the day, it's all about helping people. Right now, one thing we need to understand is, when we're talking about purpose is in fact adaptive in an evolutionary sense. So it helps both individuals and the species to survive. Because okay, so basically, to actually explain that, the only way we know we're going to survive, like, look, the only reason you and I have motivation to wake up every day and to keep doing what we're doing is simply by the fact that we know we're doing something worthy in this world, right? That's the only reason you and I, aren't too sad. Not that we aren't too sad, but that's the only reason we feel like we're doing something with our lives, right? Because we know we're doing the right thing. We know it's fulfilling for us. We know it makes us happy and it satisfies us as well. So a lot of people out there actually believe that purpose arises from your special gifts, and that's what sets you apart from all these other people. But that's also only a part of the actual truth, right? Obviously, everyone here in this world has different abilities. We have different talents. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to finding your sense of purpose and whatnot, it doesn't always mean you find your sense of purpose just because you're different. It can also mean a lot of other things. Now, it also grows from our connection to others, which is why, a crisis of purpose is often a symptom of isolation, something we've all been feeling, right? So once you find your path, rather, you'll actually most certainly find others traveling along with you, wanting to reach that same destination. And that's why you will feel like a community. But stay tuned, because we will be talking about the things you can do to find your purpose in life, and how finding your purpose in life is important. But until then, I'm going to head into a small break, but make sure you stay tuned.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies will ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, and mainly one, because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies will ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that would improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that? What
makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It'll make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there, you're quite right.
I've been doing this for quite some time. Hey, you'll get the hang of it.
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
We should be able to cycle there.
Oh.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. And like I said, I'm very, very excited to be here because we're talking about finding your purpose in life, which is, this question we've had a lot of us have had this question for a really long time. Some of us are just beginning to have it. And sometimes, even though you think you've figured out your purpose in life, it just comes back again to haunt you to realize until you are in this realization that you actually haven't found your purpose in life. So that's what we are talking about today, because obviously there is a lot of interesting things to talk about when it comes to finding your purpose in life. Right. But before I get in that conversation, I want to quickly remind you that you can text me on 078 to actually have this, to share your thoughts, your opinions with me when it comes to when it comes to finding your purpose in life. So make sure you do that because I would absolutely love to hear from you. I would absolutely love to know how you found your purpose in life and what kind of steps you took to understand what the point of your life is. Okay. But to actually get back into this conversation now, what exactly can we do to actually find our purpose in life? What kind of changes do we need to make? What kind of things do we need to start doing more to find our purpose in life? And the first thing you can do is actually to explore the things that you love to do. Now, I know it sounds like a very simple answer to this philosophical question that we've all been having, you know but the thing is, when you explore the things you love to do, like for me, for example, if you take me, I love cooking and I love painting. I love drawing. I love Yeah, definitely. When it comes to what you want to do with your life, it doesn't always have to be the same thing, right? Sometimes your purpose in life can change over time. Sometimes maybe you want to do something now, like you want to do something that you love now, but maybe in a few more years it won't be the same. And you know what, that's completely fine, because the whole point of life isn't to find your sense of purpose in one go. It's this experimental process. It's a process of trial and error. There's so many different things you have to try out, so many different things you need to explore as well to find out your sense of purpose in life. So obviously, when you explore the things that you love to do, you can actually find your purpose in life. And you can make sure that you know what to do with your life, because what you need to remember, what you need to understand is that your purpose in life already exists, like within you. It's already there. You just need to take that time, explore what you like, explore what you want to do, and then find it out, because it's not that it's non-existent. It's existent. It just takes some time for us to figure out what we want to do. Now, Something else we can actually do is turn our hurt into healing. Not just for ourselves but for others as well. Now a lot of people who have been through a lot of hurtful situations have actually used that trauma to make life better for themselves, but also for people who are going through those same situations. Now I can give you an example. You take any of these, all these celebrities out there, right? Jennifer Lopez or Mariah Carey, Carey, and there are so many celebrities out there who we think have really amazing lives, right? Because right now, they have a good life. At least, that's what we assume they have, because they seem to be happy. They're rich, they can afford a lot of things in life. So obviously, because of that, they have this sense of purpose, right? Or we assume that they have this sense of purpose. But when it comes to turning your hurt into healing other people or even healing yourself, a lot of these celebrities have actually had very traumatizing childhoods. They've been through poverty, they've had to go through domestic violence and whatnot. So obviously when you're going through such traumatizing incidents, sometimes, in that process of healing, in that process of getting over it, you can actually help all these children or help other people. Now there's actually this girl called Casey Willingham, who was obviously raised in poverty, and she lived in this family who was driven by domestic violence actually. But somehow she enrolled into university and whatnot, and then she found her life's purpose, because she realized her life's purpose, or she realized that the only way she got any meaning and value to her life was actually by helping all these other children who were going through who were going through similar issues, right? And that helped her understand her own trauma, her own grief, and it also helped her help all these people. So it is actually a very, very beautiful process if you think about it. I'm not trying to romanticize hurt, because you shouldn't ever romanticize hurt. But the thing is, sometimes the fact that you got so hurt, you can use it to help other people, you can use it to help someone else. But that doesn't mean that you can say violence is okay, because violence is not okay. Right now, something else you can also do is to cultivate awe, gratitude, and altruism, right? Now this is very important, because if you're trying to find your sense of purpose, if you're trying to find the meaning of your life, you have to make sure that you're grateful for everything, that you have this, you are grateful, and that you're altruistic towards everything that is happening in your life as well. Because some studies that were conducted actually show that the experience of awe makes us feel connected to something larger than ourselves, and that itself can provide us the emotional foundation for that sense of purpose. So when we're in awe of, like, of this huge world, we're in awe of everything we can do. There are so many different things we can do, there are so many changes you and I can make in this life. So that's why it's very, very important to actually cultivate all gratitude and altruism, because that is definitely going to help you find your sense of purpose. And last but not least, you have to surround yourself with positive people. This is very important, because more often than not, we tend to surround ourselves with people who aren't very positive. They're pessimistic, they're cynical, they're not really supportive. So obviously when it comes to all these instances where we hang out with people who are not positive, it actually gets to us, because ultimately it's all these positive people that will actually encourage us, that will actually motivate us and support us, and tell us, like, look, this is what you're doing with your life, and it's completely normal. You're doing a good job, I'm proud of you. It is positive people that will actually tell you stuff like this, because if you're negative, if you're pessimistic, if you're cynical, then chances are they're probably not going to say any of that to you, right? So obviously it's very, very important that you surround yourself with positive people. Now let's talk about why finding purpose is important. Because finding purpose rather actually helps you find meaning. And finding your life purpose creates this sense of meaning in your life. You know what you love to do, what you're good at, and how you can actually contribute to the world as well. So when you find your purpose, you find the meaning of your life. And another thing that you find is also your place. Like, what is my place in the world? Now, like I said, I told you how I felt that sometime back, when I was going through this bout of depression. I felt like whatever I did didn't matter, because I felt like in this huge ocean of people, what I did was just this drop of water. And the ocean is this huge it's basically a huge drop of water, right? It's like a lot of drops of water, and that's what the ocean is. So when you find that sense of purpose in life, you actually start finding your place in life, finding what gives meaning to your life and where you belong. And that's very very important, because a lot of us struggle with that feeling of belonging. It's something we feel like we're not grounded to what we do, we feel like we don't belong, we feel like we're floating around aimlessly. But when you find your purpose, it helps you find your place in life. And it also helps you with your sense of self, because knowing your life purpose actually gives you a clearer sense of who you are. And it's basically it's as if you have distilled your life down to its essence by connecting with your purpose. It's like you finally connect with what you're supposed to do, with what you're meant to do, and that feels so so much better than just not knowing what to do with your life. Okay, and now the next one actually isn't going to sound like wow, but believe it or not, finding your purpose in life actually gives you a sense of ease, because knowing your purpose in life makes life easier for you, because you know what you have to pay attention to, you know what is important, you know what kind of things you need to cut out from your life, and you know what isn't important in your life, and what you need to spend less time and money on. So when you know your sense of purpose, it actually it helps you a lot to be at ease with yourself, to know that I'm on the right path, I'm doing the correct thing, and it's definitely helping me a lot, right? And lastly, we have positive impact. Now, like I said, it's very hard to live in a world where everything's negative, because when everything's negative, you can't really function. Because look, there's only a certain level of negativity you can take as well, right? You can't be negative forever. I don't know about like pessimistic, negative, cynical people out there, but for me personally, I can only criticize things for a certain time, and that's the truth. You can't always, because I always feel like people who are negative, people who are cynical and pessimistic, are filled with a lot of self-hatred. They're filled with a lot of or rather, they're filled with the inability to actually accept things. They're filled with the inability to see just how beautiful life is, and just to see how life has such a huge purpose for everyone out there, right? And it's just terrible, because a lot of people don't know that if they looked at life from a different perspective, if they used a different lens to look at life in, that their lives could be so much better. But sometimes they just consciously make the choice to make their life so much worse for themselves, and they stick to that as well. So for me personally, I think it's very I think it's very I just think people who are negative have a lot of self-hatred, and they have a lot of negativity in themselves, right? But when you know your purpose, it helps you to have a much greater impact on the world, right? Because your purpose actually allows you to have this huge positive impact, but only if you actually live it. The thing is, even though you find your sense of purpose, but you don't really take the action, if you don't live the purpose, then there's literally no point in you living your life. There's no point in you trying to make the change or anything, because it's just not the same. So it's very very important to actually make that sense, to actually make sure that when you find your sense of purpose, you live your purpose as well, because that's very important. And lastly, knowing your sense of purpose actually helps you to have a lot of confidence. Now, confidence is something that a lot of us struggle with, right? And it's completely normal, because we live in this, day and age where it's so hard to find confidence. It's so hard to be confident of yourself, because everything is so competitive. Everything is a huge competition. It's always about who does it better, and it's always about trying to prove your self-worth, right? That is what the world is right now. But when you find your sense of purpose, when you know what your purpose in life is, then it actually definitely helps you to have that confidence, because you're more confident. You know what you're doing with your life, you know what kind of choices you need to make, you know what kind of decisions you need to make as well. So obviously it helps you a lot when you're finding, or when you know your purpose in life as well, right? So it's important actually for you to be confident in the knowledge that we all have a purpose, right? Regardless of whether you found your purpose or not, you will eventually find it, right? And sometimes, like I said sometime back, we all work in different ways, we all work at different times, right? The timings of the way our lives revolve, rotate, whatever it is, the way our lives function are very, very different. And that's completely fine because we all take our own time to actually come to terms with something. Some things we all take our own time to actually realize our sense of purpose, and that's completely fine, right? But what's important is that you find your sense of purpose, you find why your life is important, you realize that you have a purpose in life, and then you actually work towards finding that purpose, you work towards achieving that purpose, and you work towards making the world or even yourself so much better with that sense of purpose you have. And that's why it's very, very important for you to actually do that. So next time if you're going through an existential crisis, take a minute, sit back, and just think about your life, everything you've accomplished, everything you've achieved, and continue doing the things you love, because that way it will actually help you a lot to figure out everything that is going on in your life and to find your sense of purpose as well. So make sure you stay tuned, because I'll be back in a few more minutes to talk to you about celebrity pregnancies and what it is in this day and age. So make sure you stay tuned, because I'll be back in a few minutes, but until then, hang on.